Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod BBQ podcast. On this episode, our final episode of 2021, we are going to be talking 2021 Ford Bronco and Ford Maverick. And the reason we're talking about this is because last week, Ford actually flew me out to Nevada to basically just romp on these things and have a good time. So the Bronco, we went out to Red Rocks, drove the Bronco in through the desert, beat the crap out of that, then jumped into Maverick and beat the crap out of those. And I'm here with Rob Einaudi and Mike Austin from Hemmings, and they're going to ask me some questions, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on both vehicles because they were both very, very good. How you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So, what do you all want to know about the Bronco and the Maverick?
I got one to start. So,
Go.
there's a little bit of this comes with a little bit of setup. Apologies for going long here. The Maverick is the small pickup truck. It's essentially based on the Bronco Sport, which is
Correct.
kind of like a shortened Escape, but crossover platform. The Bronco borrows heavily from the Ranger, which is a small pickup. On paper, I was thinking, for a pickup or even just like a daily driver, not going off-roading, the Maverick's the one I want because it's going to have all this room in front. The packaging is better. The Bronco, for everything that's great about it, or at least in the Ranger too, you're sitting on the floor, which is a thing to get that ground clearance. So just in terms of from the driver's seat, what's the one you want to take to Home Depot?
Yeah, good question.
I will say comfort-wise, okay, taking into consideration that I'm 6'4", 240, I could actually do either. And here's the reason. The designers in both trucks did a very good job of not impeding legroom by using a massive center console. So my leg wasn't butted up against either one. The Bronco, you definitely sit higher because it's off-road. Your visibility is better. The Maverick, you're sitting a little lower. Both are very, very comfortable. As a day-to-day, every day, all the time, I'm going to say Maverick because I'll give the nod to the Maverick.
A little more car-like in terms of just.
The Maverick is definitely more car-like. There's no question about it. I mean, the Maverick drives like a car because it's a unibody, right? It's not harsh in any way. Neither is the Bronco for that matter. But they're two very, very different vehicles, right? The Bronco, if you don't go off-road, don't buy a Bronco. There's literally no point to owning one. But if you want a usable everyday pickup truck, that'll probably do 85% of your half-ton needs in a small truck, then get the Maverick because it's a great little offering. It really is.
Have you driven the Ridgeline recently and/or the Santa Cruz?
So I have not driven the Santa Cruz, but I have driven the Ridgeline, and the Ridgeline is a more substantial
A little
truck.
bigger.
It's like half size up too.
Yeah.
I mean, the only real competitor that I see to the Maverick right now is the Santa Cruz, like you said. I haven't gotten behind the wheel of the Santa Cruz yet. I haven't heard, but I've heard the Maverick. I've heard different things. I'd like to get behind the wheel just to see what it's like. I can get a press one and see. But the key with the Maverick, the best thing about the Maverick is that price, right? A base model XL Maverick with a hybrid is $19,995.
Did you get to drive that one? That base?
I did actually. And here's the thing with both Mavericks that I drove a 2021 base model XL hybrid with steel wheels and literally no options. As stripper you can get.
Yeah.
And then I also drove the Lariat all-wheel drive, which was as maxed as you could get. And it was pretty good. I mean, Ford did a really cool job of letting the general public have the option of outfitting their vehicle by giving them this little QR code that sits in the back of the bed. And it shows you how to DIY your own bed rails and your own mountain bike stanchions and your own this and your own that, which is really cool, which manufacturers don't generally do. But there's also a massive difference, right? Because you have the XL, which is the base, which is just under 20 grand. And then you have the Lariat all-wheel drive, which bounces up to around $37,000, right? So you're talking almost double the price here.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, so at $19,995 with the Focus gone, this is Ford's entry level product, and it's a hybrid, and it's what's the EPA sticker on it? 39 or 40?
Yeah, 40.
There's a bunch of really intriguing things here, which is a bunch of people are going to be buying these because it's the cheapest new car Ford sells. There's probably going to be a lease deal, but
Yep.
also like a bunch of people are jumping into hybrids, and like now, we should probably be talking about the Bronco because it's the hottest thing ever. But I'm super excited about the Maverick. I have
Dude,
friends looking for one.
everybody.
Like it does all this, like yeah, you have that open cargo area. It's not that hard to get a tonneau cover for it. Like
Uh-uh.
4-door with a huge trunk, really.
No,
And like you said,
I
it's
got so
90% of
excited
your
by the
DIY
Maverick.
hauling stuff.
I ordered a Maverick and they called me when it came in. I ordered the base model and they called me when it came in. I could have gotten it, but I just moved and decided I didn't need it anymore. But yeah, I was pumped about that thing. I thought they knocked out of the park and that's without seeing or driving it. I ordered one.
So I will tell you right now, and I don't think there's anything wrong about talking about getting really deep into the Maverick over the Bronco, because the Maverick is great. I don't know what I was prepared for, but I wasn't prepared to like it nearly as much as I did. And I think you have the value proposition, which is just under 20 grand, which for the base model XL is fantastic, right? Now think about this. The base model it's a 2.5 liter Atkinson 4-cylinder. It's 191 horsepower. It's 155 pound-feet of torque, front wheel drive only. When you jump on it, it gets out of its own way, right? It's a CVT transmission, so it's got the buzzy noise and everything like that, which is okay. But you're talking 42 in the city, 42 miles to the gallon to the city. You're talking 33 on the highway and 37 combined. Those are great numbers for a vehicle that weighs almost 3,700 pounds, right? The other portion of the Maverick, which is great. Now, the bed on the Maverick is only, I think it's 4 feet 6 inches, I think. And there are different configurations because you can lower the tailgate like 45 degrees and then lay it flat. And there's a bed extender so you can make it go a little farther. But the payload capacity of the Maverick is 1,500 pounds. That's a lot. Like that is a lot of weight for a tiny little pickup truck.
I mean, for just your basic little contractor truck, that should be fine, right? I mean, Home Depot runs, etc. I mean, it's great.
Well, it depends. Like, I had worked on my house, and actually, one of the people working on my house had an Explorer Sport Track. But it's like, most of those, you think like contractors, and like, yeah, let's get a big truck and write it down as a business expense with depreciation, without getting into like the philosophy of who to hire to work on your house. Right. Like a lot of people in the trades, someone drives the truck or the van, and then you still got to show up. So you need something that can make your own errands or haul stuff, but you don't, the Maverick fits the job pretty well.
Well, it does. And, interesting bring up, Mike, with the Sport Track, because this is like a very advanced sport track, right? It's like the next level of sport track. The bed is pretty much the same. I forget what the length of the Sport Track bed was, but it's the same general concept, right? What I liked about the Maverick was that it's compact. It's a short wheelbase. It's got a 40-foot turning radius. It's very, very easy to drive. And as kind of an urban style vehicle, it's small enough that you could park it and maneuver it just about anywhere you want to go, which is I think one of the real selling points of this thing. So
I have a slight beef with the name. I think they should have called it Ranchero or something.
I mean, let's put it this way. The original Maverick was a shitbox anyway, so no one, I can't imagine anybody's really going to care, like, if it's called a Maverick or not, like the Maverick's been dead and buried for 1 billion years.
My third grade.
I'm sorry.
Maverick.
I just think of the Top Gun scene. It's like, did your parents not love you?
I know.
Yeah. Okay.
So Rob, you configured one. You said, like in Musto, you were in the base one. Every time I've looked at a Maverick configurator, I get sucked into the feature creep, right? Like I want some of the gadgets. So like how cheap is the inside of that base one, and like where do you fall on what to pay for?
So like the base Maverick actually comes very well equipped. And this is what I like. Like if I were to order a Maverick, there's a couple of things that I would do. One, the thing that is kind of annoying, you can't get the hybrid with all-wheel drive. Can't do it. Right? That's going to come, hopefully it's going to come later. The platform is set up so possibly they can do it, but it's not available now.
Well, just get snow tires.
Yeah, well, I agree. You can put snow tires on it, you're fine.
Yeah, for California, you don't need that anyway.
I would order a base XL, right? With a trailer hitch and I would order a spray and bed liner. And that's really all you need because it's AC, power windows, 8-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard, right? Um, a base model truck isn't what a base model truck used to be. And that's kind of the nice part. It gives you everything you need and nothing you don't. And if you want like a contractor version, that's absolutely the one to get. I actually really like I like the steel wheels. I think it's cool.
Yeah, those are good.
It's the other part is the max towing on the hybrid is 2,000 pounds. So the fact is, if you hook it up to a tow hitch, you could still put a little trailer and tow a jet ski trailer or a motorcycle trailer or something like that, right? You're not going to be towing a boat or a car. But you're still it's still accomplishing everything that most people are going to need to do. So I mean, for me personally, I would go with a base XL. In fact, I'm kind of thinking of ordering one, even though I don't need one. Because you get sucked into that mileage. You get sucked into that 42 miles to the gallon. And you're talking to a guy whose best vehicle gets like 22.
Yeah.
Right. But most of my vehicles get 12 or less.
I always have to have seat warmers, so I don't know. I think I gotta probably spend more to get that.
So that would be the Lariat. That would be the Lariat. And the Lariat was nice. I think a lot of people, when they get into the interiors of these things, the interiors are very functional. And a lot of people, I had posted some pictures on Instagram and Facebook, and there are definitely cost-saving measures. Like the interior is hard plastic everywhere, but it's hard textured plastic, so it doesn't appear cheap. It doesn't really the touch points are very, very good. And I think Ford put a lot of time into this. You pop the hood, and I mean there are wires and everything going everywhere. There's no engine cover, so it looks like your lower intestine is in the engine bay of the truck, and it's fine, but it's just not neat and tidy. But like you're not riding in the engine compartment, and you're not riding with your hood open, so who cares? It doesn't matter, right? It is, I think, like I said, it's 85 to 90% of the truck that most half-ton buyers are going to look for. But the beauty of the Maverick is that it is compact enough and comfortable enough that you can absolutely drive it every day. You could bring it anywhere, park it anywhere. It doesn't take up a lot of room and still has capacity. The other thing is the DIY guide that Ford gives you to outfit your own Maverick with like perfect example. They have like a mountain bike holder, right? And in the bed, it's actually built in. Like get a 2x4, slot it in, buy 2 mountain bike fork clips, screw it in. It's really, really cool that you could do. And it's also pre-wired for a lot of stuff. So if you want to add auxiliary stuff, there are little components in the back of the bed where you could put in lights, you can put in, plugs for a generator and stuff. It's just a very well thought out little truck. I mean, I like I said, I wasn't prepared to like it as much as I do. Or as much as
So
I do.
I was just looking, you can get,
Go ahead.
I was just saying, you can get Copilot 360 on the base truck, which is that's like Ford's version of the Super Cruise, like hands-off thing.
Correct.
Which to me, like I want heated seats, but also to me, if I'm buying a new car, give me all the driver assistance. So that's your point that you could get by with the fully based truck is pretty close.
Yeah, but again, you're talking about theoretically a sub $20,000 truck with the base model. That's if you can find a dealer that's not jacking it up by $5,000.
That's the thing.
Well, also that's not counting 1,500 in destination.
Correct.
Yeah.
But even so, for 25, say you're out the door for $22,000 or $23,000. There's nothing on the market right now, nothing that comes close to that truck as far as what it offers you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was going to say, I think people are probably wondering why we're talking about this on Hemmings, but I think a lot of the kind of classic car owners have vehicles like this as their daily, like in my experience. Like some of the guys with the coolest cars are driving vehicles closer to this as their daily, like it's a good...
Well, and also, if you're into classic cars, I'm not saying, I mean, the Maverick is cool. I'm not here to make a case for the Maverick is cool, but in general, you're probably a little more interested in your daily driver. It's not just, hey, it gets the job done. And the Maverick is a little bit outside of the normal crossover fare that is
exactly. That's true.
Yeah. That's true. And it was interesting. I was talking to them and I asked them if Ford made a not only a tonneau cover, but a bed cap And they said, yes, Ford is going to produce bed caps for the Maverick. So, which I think is a great idea, right? You can put your stuff in there and seal it up, and it's nice and tight and everything. But the designers and the engineers were really keen on listening to the audience and what they wanted. They said they did a ton of audience research, customer research about what they wanted in a pickup. And, it's not going to be the right truck for everybody. But again, you've got Maverick, you've got a newly redesigned Ranger that's coming out, you've got F-150.
Yeah.
So a lot of people read about the Maverick and they're like, it's not a real truck and it doesn't do this. It's like schmucks. They've got 4 or 5 different other offerings that are going to fit your needs. If the Maverick doesn't fit your need, move up to a Ranger. If the Ranger doesn't work, move up to an F-150, But I think, again, for the majority of the people, Maverick is a great option, man. I mean, like
and people forget how big these trucks have gotten. I mean, I parked my
huge
Chevy C10 next to a Tacoma the other day, and the Tacoma was bigger.
Yeah. This is a nice sized truck. It's a nice sized truck that just works. Yeah. No. It's cool. It's definitely cool. And power wise isn't bad either. Like if you go for the Lariat and you can get the upgraded Mavericks and you can get them in all wheel drive. You can get them in front wheel drive, but the 2-liter EcoBoost actually makes a fair amount of power as well. That makes 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. So either one has more than enough power to get you rolling. They feel pretty stout. There is a noticeable difference in acceleration in between the EcoBoost and the hybrid, right? The EcoBoost actually jumps up and it's fairly quick, and it still gets over 20 miles to the gallon. It gets almost 30 on the highway with the all-wheel drive. So you're not suffering too bad. But yeah, man, I was pretty blown away. I was pretty happy with this truck.
Should we move on and talk Bronco now?
Sure. Unless, Mike, you got any other Maverick questions?
No, I was ready to move to Bronco. I was like, did it fulfill all your hopes and dreams?
So as somebody who drives the previous Bronco, right? I daily a 96 XLT Sport Bronco, which basically you're talking technology that was basically shot up from the 1970s. So I-beam front suspension, solid live axle based on a shortened F-150 chassis.
You got the OJ version.
I got the OJ, like the last of the OJ. And it's, make no mistake, it is a big lumbering lump of a vehicle. It's a truck. That's what it is. The Bronco, the one that I drove, and I wanted to drive one in particular. I wanted to drive the manual, and they only had one manual. The manual was a Badlands Editions that came stock with 33-inch tires, where a lot of the other ones have the 35s. It had the 2.3-liter EcoBoost, which made 325 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque. But it also had the 7-speed manual with a creeper gear, which was really, really nice. It was a manual transmission. And it was a convertible. That's
the hot setup too. That's the I went to like a Bronco show and tell ride along before it came out, and the engineer was basically telling me the 33-inch tire is kind of the hot setup because it's the most suspension travel. So you don't get the Sasquatch like giant tire, but as an all-rounder or for running a little higher speed, that's the one you want.
I'll tell you, Ford did a great thing. Like we went out to Red Rocks in Nevada, and we did some stuff. Like we did everything from mild rock crawling to big hill climbs to bombing through the desert in Baja mode at 70 miles an hour. I had, like I said, mine was the manual. It was also the convertible. So we dropped the soft top, even though it was 40 degrees. But I put the heated seat and the heated steering wheel on and the heat on, and I was totally fine.
You were in the 4-door too, right? It was a 4-door.
I was in the 4-door. Yeah. Unbelievably capable truck. Very, very smooth truck. The 2.3 EcoBoost, listen, it's got plenty of power. And everybody's like, well, they really should offer a V8. And it's like, my 96 has a 5.8 liter V8. And this truck will trounce it in every category. Like, it's not even like everybody's like, how does it compare to the old Bronco? I'm like, it doesn't compare. Like, the new Bronco will crap all over my 96 in every way, shape, and form. It'll decimate it. And this, I think people need to get that out of their head. Like, the old stuff is better. The old stuff is not better. The old stuff is terrible compared to the new stuff. Loads of suspension travel. Has all the GOAT modes, right, to go over any terrain, from Baja mode, mud and sand, slippery, snow, rock crawling, ruts. They're very, very easy to use. It also has a sway bar disconnect that you can use on the fly.
Wow.
But like in Baja mode, we were cruising in the desert and, you know, you get a little trepidatious because you're like, I'm rolling over rocks at speed at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. And you're like, something is going to break. But nothing broke. And it's again, because you don't do this every day. You're like, the stuff that I did in this truck would have destroyed my 96, would have straight up destroyed it.
Yeah.
This thing, no squeaks, no rattles.
How's that creeper gear or whatever work with a manual? How do you engage that?
Fantastic. The same way you would engage any gear, right? You put it in crawl. It's basically crawl gear. You put it in, and we demonstrated this on some really, really steep inclines going down kind of like small rock faces. And the thing that you have to get over in your head is you have to let the technology do what the technology does, right? So put it in creeper gear, and the creeper gear will only let you walk about 1.5 miles an hour. Okay.
Where is it on the? Is it first gear? What is it exactly?
It's essentially first, right? So there's a little toggle on the stick which you would pull up. Yeah, you would push it left and up, and that's your creeper gear, and then down and left is reverse.
So two is in the one position, like you're starting at two.
Two would be reverse. So here it is. It's creeper
so the regular
gear.
H is ratios, not necessarily gear, but ratio. If crawler is ratio number 1, the regular H starts with ratio number 2, where the one position would be.
Correct.
And then goes from there.
Okay. Okay.
That's correct. And the creeper gear is nice because you basically put it in. It won't allow you don't need to slip the clutch. Literally just take your foot off the clutch in its entirety, and it'll just creep along. And that's, again, as somebody who grew up analog, right? You're always used to trying to slip the clutch.
Yeah.
And in this, you don't have to. You just let the technology do what it does. And it works fantastic, but there's a little mind game that you have to play with yourself to say, let me trust it. It's just the first time you do it, it's a little unnerving, but then it works and you're like, oh, perfect. I'll just do it.
So it's one of those things that'll make a manual easier for someone not that experienced with it off-road, right? A little
absolutely
less, which is cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of like when they introduce stuff like hill hold or rev matching. Yeah, it just makes it a little easier for people who don't have a lot of experience with the manual to still enjoy them,
Correct. And what was interesting to me is nobody else wanted to drive the manual except for me.
Of course
and
not.
I'm finding on these press launches, I don't know, Mike and Rob, if you guys find this, but like I seek out the manuals, but then you've got the old guys, like the old journalists that are they're kind of lazy and they just don't want to drive manuals anymore, so they just go in the automatics and then they go to lunch. And then you get the kids that are in their 20s that literally don't know how to drive a manual. So they don't drive a manual. And then you've got guys like me that just want to drive a manual, but they're so few and far between that we never get the opportunity.
Well, and off-roading too, I think I might not be I don't know, but for a real off-roader, but as far as like, modern automatics can deal with the cooling, it's kind of the same thing as on the track. It's like, if you have a good automatic, they're good, allegedly they're good enough now, and you have other things like hill descent that help, where it's just like you can focus on the path ahead.
Yeah.
Going off-road and on the track. So the manual is literally just, I want to do it myself and I want that extra connection. It's not like, if you want to do precision driving, I've heard that even off-roading an automatic has gotten at least to a level, if not better place. So it's still. It's personal choice all around.
There's no
for manuals.
Yeah. And I think off-road, the automatic is probably the better choice. And like with the Bronco, one of the things you lose with the manual is you lose the turn assist, the trail turn assist on the Bronco, which basically locks one of the rear wheels, uses the outer wheel to turn the car around, so it can really almost like pivot, which is very, very cool. But you do lose that with the manual transmission. But as far as the power goes, I wasn't missing any power with the 2.3, which was 300 horsepower. The 2.7 makes 330 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque. So it's kind of a stump puller. Like, it's actually really good. But I don't know, man. I thought this Badlands one with the 33s was a great combination.
That's
And
the
like
one
when we were talking to
you're gonna order one. Is that the one? Is that the combo you'd probably order?
that's the combo that I would order, I think. I think the 35s are great and they look great, but on the highway, the 36 or the 33s were also very manageable. You didn't get a lot of road noise. Um, with the suspension's super comfortable on the highway. Like you could cruise it all day. Obviously there's
No
wind
death
noise.
wobble then?
No, dude, no, it's totally fine. It's
And the
totally fine.
Badlands is not cheap. That's already got you up to 42 grand before you sneeze. That
Yeah.
one. So is that okay? So you wouldn't get a base or a Big Bend?
Um, I can only comment on what I drove, which
Yeah.
is the Badlands edition, and I
Yeah.
was very happy with that. And that had all the electronics, that had the heated seats, heated
Had
steering
everything,
wheel,
yeah.
had everything. I will mention that the soft top is not the easiest thing to take down.
That's what I was gonna ask. Was soft top versus hard top and the
So
noise on the highway?
Yeah.
personally, I would go hard top. Like
Yeah.
I'm not even a fan of a sunroof. Um, I drove the Badlands because it was the manual and it happened to have the soft top on it and it was cool. So like we took it down. And I will say that even with the top down, it's very, very comfortable. You don't get blown around in that thing as you do on with say like a Wrangler or something like that. So it is nice with the top down. There's no question, but the top is a pain in the ass to take off. It is
How about two door versus four door? Did you drive any two doors or?
Didn't drive a two door, but like I went inside and out of the two door. The two door is, believe it or not, like there's room in the two door. Like for a guy like my size to sit in the back. The problem is it totally cannibalizes on any storage you have because they, wanted to do that.
The look though is so classic with the two door though.
The two door is much better looking in my opinion than the four door with the 35s on it. I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
From a usability standpoint, I would go with the four door because it has more room.
Yeah.
But here's my thing. If you don't go off road, do not buy a Bronco because there is no reason for it. Yes, fine. You want to turn it into a mall crawler like every Rubicon on the planet. Go ahead, fine. But the engineers are so happy about what they accomplished.
Windmill, man.
Yeah, dude. It's like the engineers are so happy about what they accomplished, and they accomplished a fabulous thing with this truck. Like it is, I hammered on this thing. Like I straight up hammered on this thing. It didn't blink.
Yeah.
To waste that by going just cruising down the tarmac at 75, like go out and get it dirty and like muck it up. It's a Bronco. That's what it's for. And I'm really hoping whomever buys one experiences it off road because I think the capabilities will surprise so many people because it's that good. And it's also good because it's good. I think the Bronco is going to push everyone else. And by everyone else, I'm really targeting Jeep here to step up the game with the Rubicon because there was no competition to the Rubicon until the Bronco came out. And the Bronco is so good right now that it's like Jeep's probably like, we should probably.
Well, the crazy thing is the Bronco is so expensive with dealer markups and stuff. You're in Land Rover territory,
Well, it's that, and speaking of like a perfect example, I have a really close friend of mine who was on the list for the Bronco, and he was 2 years out, and he ordered when the ad first came out last year.
Yeah,
and he's like, I can't do this, so he went and bought a Rubicon.
Yeah,
because he was just like, the hell with this. He's like, I'm not waiting 2.5 years. He goes, I'll wait for the second iteration of the Bronco to come out, and then maybe I'll get that after I've had my Rubicon for 3 years.
I'm glad you reminded me. I got to get my $100 back from Elon Musk for the truck.
Cybertruck. Good luck on that.
So, Musto, did you take the doors off? How hard is that? How heavy are they?
So I did not take the doors off, but the doors are not. It's fairly easy. It's similar to a Wrangler, right? They kind of pop off. The problem again is, where do you put them?
Where do you put?
Yeah.
Like where are you gonna put your doors? Right? It's like the hard top and the curtains and everything, or the soft top. Like, where do you put it? Stick the doors in the driveway. Like,
there's a really
good
good
garage.
Doors. It's like in a door jamb.
That's the same thing with the hard top. I think you can fit a couple of the panels in the back of the Bronco, but like I had a Gladiator when I went to the Scottsdale auctions 2 years ago. I got a Gladiator as a rental, and I'm like, sweet, taking the roof off, and like it takes up the whole back seat. It's like if you think of like an architectural like folio sort of bag, it's that except 6 inches thick and like 40, 80 pounds.
Yeah, that's like every car that I've ever had with T-tops. Like, where you can put them? It's a pain in the ass. Like, just buy a hardtop.
T-tops
buy
are
a sunroof.
smaller. But,
they are, but they're still like...
It's the Bronco and the Wrangler are the same. Is if you're taking the top off, it's like you're taking the top off and you're leaving it in the garage, and then you're coming home. Correct.
But I'll tell you, for both trucks, they did a great job on it. I personally, if I was going to buy one right now, I'd go Maverick, just because it fits my lifestyle. I'm not a massive off-roader. And if I do want to go off-road, I hate to say this, but I do have 3 SUVs that can go off-road. But unbelievably capable, the Bronco is.
How do you compare
really,
it to the
really
Wrangler,
cool.
then? How do you compare it to the Wrangler?
So the Bronco felt a lot more spacious. So that's an interesting question, Rob. When I got into the Rubicon, I almost got claustrophobic in the Rubicon because it felt narrower, and it felt like the A-pillars with the integrated roll bar was very tight for me.
Yeah.
I felt open in the Bronco, which was really cool. Like, I had plenty of leg room. I had plenty of knee room. I was talking to one of the engineers who's my size, which was great, because he's like, my biggest thing is getting into a car and having my knees just hit everything.
Yeah.
And so we purposely designed it to be a little bit bigger. And it feels bigger. It feels like it's you're not nearly as compacted as you are in a Wrangler or a Rubicon.
It to me, when I saw it, it looks smaller than I thought it would.
I was gonna say those things are big on the road. Like, you get next to them, and it's not like first gen Bronco is tiny. It's like, I guess it's Mustang. Old Mustang versus new Mustang. It's a similar thing, but again, Ranger is a mid-sized compact pickup. It's bigger than your old C10.
Yeah,
probably.
totally.
It's definitely taller.
Yeah.
But yeah, both great trucks. Again, do not buy a Bronco if you're not going to go off-road, because there's no point, and then you'll just be that schmuck. Buy a Maverick for everything else you want to do, unless you truly need to tow or you need an F-150 or a Ranger.
There you go.
Because they're great. So
what if you don't want a Ford?
If you don't want a Ford, I mean, go out and buy an old Dodge. I don't know. Go out and buy an old Chevy. Buy a C10.
Buy a TRX or something.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I never understood the whole brand loyalty thing. Like, I can't buy a Ford. I can't buy Chevy. It's like, shut up. Go out and, it just never made sense to me. But I don't know. Any other questions on these two? Anything that you're dying to know? Oh, before
I'll go back to the hardtop, soft top, because I live in Michigan, or Southeast Michigan, so we have all the
weather
Ford employee cars. So we've they had the hold on the hardtops, and we're just coming out now. So even here, which is like the ones they don't let out to the public, we've just started seeing the hardtops. But what did Ford say about the whole hardtop screw up?
That was not addressed. That was not.
We're not even aware of this screw up. So
they had early versions of the hardtop were like showing the pattern of the internal, because it's like a honeycomb on the inside. So it was like the pattern was showing through the paint, and I think some of them might have even been delaminating. And so they put a stop. They just said, all right, we're not shipping any hardtops until we fix this, and now it's fixed. But.
So it didn't address it. One of the other things that I will say about the Bronco is the spotter assist screen and the cameras that they have all through the Bronco really is a nice touch going off-roading. I mean, I know the Rubicon has this as well, but really nicely integrated electronics. Just a good solid truck, man. I was very, very impressed by both. I think Ford is doing really cool stuff. I think the consumers are going to like right now. So cool. I don't know. Cool. Anything else? Any other questions or anything before we clip this podcast as the last one of the year?
Close out 2021.
Anything? Austin? Nothing?
You got any predictions for 22?
Predictions. Oh wow, so many.
We're putting together a post on the website, and so everybody, not everybody, we have a bunch of people on the editorial team contributed to them. Mine was supply chains problems aren't going away, which is a pretty easy prediction because there's a bunch of news reports on that.
Yeah,
but
they're getting worse.
What it does mean is that if you have a newer car that you're like waiting for people to start making parts for, that's not going to happen because they're going to feed the hungriest mouths first, which is all of the parts that people are currently buying. And same thing, if you have something old and weird, you're not getting parts. It might even drive up prices on good cars because you're not going to buy a fixer upper if it's going to take 2 years to fix it.
I'm already starting to wonder if I'm stuck with my lease, right? Like if the lease I wouldn't want to buy this Volvo at the end of the lease just because, I normally, but I don't know if I'll be, maybe I'll have to.
Well, it might,
just
dude.
Pay for unused.
I mean, do you think used car prices are going to the used car prices right now on the market? I have a buddy of mine that it's funny. He actually asked me about the Maverick because he wanted to get a new truck. Get this. He's got a 2016 Nissan Frontier 2-wheel drive, right? Automatic base model truck. 38,000 miles on it. 2016. They offered him $24,500 for the truck. Like Carvana did. He's like, I didn't pay $24,000 for the truck 5 years ago. He's like, and now it's like, so do you think that's going to change? Do you think used car prices are going to come back to normal? Do you think that's the new norm as well? Everything is so inflated.
There was something that was in my feed today that touched on that, and I don't remember what it was. So my armchair guess is no.
Yeah.
I mean, new car supply is still strange, so we're not getting and the prices are going up even without the supply
exactly.
So
yeah,
that makes a lot more room for used cars.
That means I gotta just keep my old junk on the road for the next bunch of years.
Dude, it's all the more reason. It's all the more reason to buy a 25-year-old classic. They're reliable enough to drive every day, and they're not losing money. Hopefully.
See that? And what a perfect segue, Mike, to buy your 20-year-old classic or 25-year-old classic. Obviously, go to the Hemmings Classifieds.
I'm always on the brand message.
See, always on the brand. Obviously, go to the Hemmings Classifieds. Obviously, go to the Hemmings auctions and find your perfect used car that you are now in 2022 going to use for your daily driver.
Yeah. You can still get good deals on Saabs.
You can, Saabs, Saturns, most of the S cars, Cadillacs.
For everyone outside of this chat, that's a joke because I have a Saab and I keep telling
I know. I'm guessing. But a buddy of mine got that 9.5 off Hemmings auction for $3,000. The car had like 80,000 miles on it.
Perfect.
Unreal. Austin missed that when he was asleep at the switch that week.
I have too many cars. I can't get rid of the good Saab that I have. It's still useful.
All right, so let me ask you this.
Can't put it on the
street. Does anybody have any plans to buy anything in the new year? Any new cars, whether it's I just want it purchase or I need it purchase?
I'd
like a Saab convertible or a Plymouth Duster.
What? How do you?
Those are the two.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
My goal is to fix stuff up. I had like this 2-year saga of getting a new dash cluster on my Honda because the tack got jumpy, and I went through a guy in Japan through someone else, and he was kind of flaky. I finally got it, and then as soon as I got it, like the pathway to the guy that fixes stuff in Japan opens up, and I'm like, it'd be nice if my original one was fixed up, and then I have a backup like forever that I'm never going to use, but whatever. So I sent that to get fixed, and now I got to pay for that, which is stupid money for what's maybe a $7,000 Japanese micro car. And then I also got a set of factory alloys, which are hard to find, but they need to be refinished. So my job or my plans for 22 are pay for that gauge cluster and then scrape up the money to get my wheels refinished, and then buy tires from Japan because The fronts are like 145, 55, 13s, and
Oh my God.
they're hard to find even in Japan.
Okay, Rob, what about you?
Well, I said the two dumb things I'm looking for, but I don't
Yeah.
really need anything. I got to put some shoulder belts in the truck. We were driving around town yesterday, and it's fine. You don't drive that thing over 25 miles an hour, but
Yeah.
don't have any big plans.
Okay. Well, the only thing I want to do is get my two cars back. I want to get the Charger back, and I want to get the Daytona back, and
When you
then
get
just
the
keep
Charger
all.
back, that's going to be a couple.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna buy something though, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you will,
that's
Mike. You're going to buy something.
I mean, yeah,
we're
I'll buy
talking about
something.
Musto here.
I mean, so if I'm going to buy something, I'm still on the lookout for a 560 SEL or 560 SEC Mercedes 1981 to 1991. I do want that. Also on the lookout for a C4 Corvette 1996 Grand Sport or ZR1. So if anybody out there is listening, like hit me up if you got one. And you don't, and you're normal and you don't think it's $9 billion, right? The other thing that I would look at, and everybody's going to laugh at me, but I think these are cool. I'd look at a 1978 through 1982 Corvette as well, because I think they're just sexy and I kind of want one. So
Wow.
there you go. But it's got to be a 4-speed.
Corvettes. I guess you're getting older.
Look at my face. Of course I am.
Yeah, you don't need a Grand Sport. You need the late C4 pace car. You need that purple pace car.
No, I can't. No, dude, I can't. I can't do any pace car. The only reason I want the Grand Sport is because I love the little tacked on fender flares on the back of it. Right? That's the only reason I want the Grand Sport. And the ZR1, just because it's a ZR1 and I think they're cool. I like those.
Dude, I gotta look at the Scottsdale catalogs. You should just go to Scottsdale and get one there. I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
they're
know.
gonna
The
have
problem
one
is
for it.
like, I know, but Scottsdale, everybody's going to overpay, and I can't overpay. I just, my body's just like, no, you know, not allowed to do that. But otherwise, I guess that's it. That's almost an hour. That's pretty impressive. So to everyone who is tuned in for the previous 51 episodes of 2021, thank you so much. Obviously, every Tuesday, we're going to be having a new episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod BBQ podcast for 2022 and hopefully beyond. So tune in. Let us know your thoughts. Put them in the comments and let us know what topics and or guests you would like us to have on this show. And we will do our best to make that happen. So with that said, Mike, Rob, thank you for coming on the show as always. And to the audience, thank you for listening. And we will see you next year on the Hot Rod BBQ. Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod BBQ podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod BBQ podcast and hit that subscribe button. And we'll come to you every week.